This episode of TV Guys is dedicated to my coworker Marissa, who I convinced to watch Stranger Things, and she watched the entire series in less than a week. Keep up the good work, and as Matt would say, stay tuned and keep watching.
The following episode contains spoilers for Stranger Things Season 4.
Hey, boss, I got the 4 seasons written up for that new Stranger Things show we're producing.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. I'm really excited for this show.
Yeah, me too. So I'm thinking in the first season, we should only have like one character death, and it should happen right away early on.
To set the tension, I like it. Which character are you killing off?
Barb.
Okay, I get it. The innocent, unassuming one. So how is it going to happen?
Well, after she tries to help Nancy and supports her even while she's making bad decisions, Barb's going to get just brutally murdered by the Demogorgon.
That's pretty harsh, but
Okay. Second season, we introduced a new mild-mannered character, a sweet guy who can be the love interest for Joyce.
Well, that could be interesting. Big name actor.
Yeah, Samwise Gamgee from Lord of the Rings.
Who?
That boob brother from 50 First Dates.
Oh, I love that guy, but it might be hard to book him for multiple seasons.
No worries, we're gonna kill him off at the end of season 2.
Okay, that fixes that problem, I guess.
Okay, so season 3, we can introduce this Russian guy who gets kidnapped by Hopper and Murray and kind of develops like a bromance with Murray.
Wait, I see where this is going.
And then Terminator shoots him in the chest.
Okay, I think that's enough for
in
right
season
now.
4, we get this new kid who's awesome, and he has his whole D&D group, and he's just about to graduate from high school, and everyone's gonna love him.
And let me guess, we kill him. Yeah. See, these aren't groundbreaking ideas anymore.
See, anyone who is even a little nice or liked at all will die.
Dude, who hurt you, man? I mean, really?
Guys, do I need to be here? It's getting weird.
Welcome to TV Guy. don't talk during the intro. This is my time. This is all I got.
The intro music's gonna play, and then Matt's gonna come back and say, "Welcome to TV Guys."
So are you starting now?
Or yeah. So that's a soft opening, and then music, and then the intro.
I'm just messing with you.
I know you are.
I'm just gonna keep interrupting now.
That's great. Hey everyone, welcome back. Hey everyone, welcome back to TV Guys, the show that's been running up that hill for almost 2 years now. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian. I thought I had the worst puns.
That wasn't a pun. That's a slogan. You cut off Dan. We have a special guest, and right now we put him on the back burner. Why don't we just talk about Muppets for 10 minutes?
We already did that.
Can we talk about Muppets, actually? I've been wanting to get this off my chest because you guys gave me a hard time. But, I signed up to talk about Stranger Things, and then 2 days before the podcast, Brian's like, by the way, there's a Muppets movie. You should watch it in 2 days and know everything about it. And then I just show up and look like an idiot, so...
It wasn't a movie. It was like a 1-hour special, and I just give you a heads up that we're going to discuss it. That was in our previous Stranger Things episode. That's not this one.
And to be fair, you didn't look like an idiot. At times, Brian and we dive into that territory, but you looked just fine. All of the compliments we got were all about how you didn't look like an idiot. It was amazing.
Nice.
We got comments?
Shut up, Brian. Well, we are back to talk about Stranger Things. As I said at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about Stranger Things Season 4 specifically. I'm sure we'll bring up a little bit from past seasons, but we're really harping on Season 4 because, when you have an episode that's 2.5 hours long, you definitely need to talk about just that season. So we brought back our resident Stranger Things expert, Dan, who's got all the hot goss here. And you, right before we were talking, you're like, we need to talk about Eddie. And I agree 100%. That's the best place. Why don't we just start there? Eddie's death, was it the most pointless death that we've ever seen or not?
They definitely could have done a lot with him. He in a short time he kind of turned into one of those lovable characters. Steve and Dustin are kind of those two, and then Eddie came in and was just kind of on their level. I think so. Here's what I actually watched something on this today. How they kind of had a plan to kill him off earlier. And they were just like, oh, we like this guy. So they just kind of kept him going longer in the season. And yeah, it was a sad one.
To be fair, that's what they did with Steve, but they still have never killed him yet. But
Yeah.
I'm worried about Steve in season 5. I'm thinking like because there's the
What?
whole is Nancy going to end up with Steve or Jonathan, and it'd be really lazy writing for her to be like, well, one of them's dead, so I guess I'll be with the live one. But I think that's what they might do.
that's why I thought that they could have killed off Jonathan. I thought that
Yeah.
that could have worked, and especially because it could have mirrored, however they ended up doing it, mirrored a version of Barb's death where it's because of Nancy's neglect, and just another way for her to like amplify that and mirror that death too. So I thought maybe if there's someone who's going to die, it easily could have been Jonathan.
Yeah. Plus,
but
Jonathan's death would have Jonathan's death would have also had implications like and then reactions from both Joyce and Will as well.
Yeah, Will, I think would have been a lot for Will's character too.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to, when we were talking about Eddie had amazing moments. They did a really good job of writing him to be as likable as he was in the amount of time that he had. But it was such a pointless death. I felt like this was one of those deaths that just served the plot. And this is the only issue that I really had with Stranger Things season 4 is that how they decided who lives and dies didn't really pass the smell test. Because like Eddie shouldn't have turned around to do that. There was no reason for him to go back and fight those bats. There's no reason for him to die. Yet on the other hand, there's all these people who countlessly were so close to death that probably should have. Max probably should have died earlier in the season, but I mean, it worked really well for the story that she didn't. Like how many times did they escape death? Steve, especially, he had a number of times he probably should have died. Nancy, after that break in the very first episode back in July 1st, she probably should have been dead with Vecna catching up to her. But
Vecna let her go. Vecna had no intention of ever killing Nancy. She was just like the messenger. He was toying with her.
Why? I mean, he could have killed her and had the fourth death. It didn't make sense in my mind apart from plot armor.
I don't know. I think Vecna is all about showmanship. Like it has to be these specific deaths, and I think Nancy was the easiest one, who's close enough to 11, who he could latch onto her guilt from Barb's death, and then use that to get to her. It's a little sloppy. And then with Eddie's death, though, it could have been good. It could have been a sacrifice play if it was like the bats were about to kill Dustin, and then he did that, but Dustin was already free, and there was no one else around.
That's a great point.
They kind of made it seem like Eddie was going to survive though for a while, because it was kind of this Dustin was running back, and you're like, oh, Dustin's going to save him or something. Mm-hmm. The music was like kind of like signaling, oh, here's the hero moment, and then he's just dead. Like it was just kind of a surprising moment, and I don't know, I wasn't ready for it. I think it was maybe different than some of the other ones because it was just kind of like, oh, that just happened, where with some of these other deaths, it's like more dramatic. Like, I mean, last time we talked about Billy, how there was this whole thing with him and Max at the end, but this was just, nope, he's gone. Bats ate him.
Yeah, I hope there's some kind of vindication of like the whole town realizing that he's not a murderer, because most of Hawkins thinks he killed everybody.
Yeah, that was a really sad epilogue for him, but like, thank God that Dustin was there to give his uncle closure and to touch base. That was a nice moment that they had, at least. And the moment leading up to where he's playing Master of Puppets, like what a cool scene. And that whole idea, he died in the most metal way possible, being killed to death by bats in an upside down hellscape.
Well, did you also hear the thing, like, based on the timeline, he would have had to learn that whole song like within like a week or so, because that song would have just came out.
Well, he's that good. It's Eddie freaking Munson, sir.
He's had a lot of time on his hands.
There was a TikTok user who posted this video. I didn't see it, but people were talking about it, where like he looked at the trailer and saw Eddie playing that song, and just based on like the little, like 2 seconds of fingering that he saw, he's like, I bet he's playing Master of Puppets. And he got it right. Like, how smart are you that you know these licks? They're like, oh yeah, I know what solo that is.
Yeah, I think it's just when you're really into something, like I guess the guy's really into Metallica or just guitar in general, and yeah,
it's great. Let's talk about the other quote unquote death. What do you guys think about Max? She dead? Is she comatose? Well, I mean, obviously she's comatose, but is she actually dead? What's going on?
No, I think she's definitely going to be blind.
What do you think, Dan?
I don't know about blind. I think it's That just sounds lame to me, but it could be. It may be. It may be she's dead, or I think they kind of got to go one way or the other. It seems like that's kind of the theme of the show, where it's like people look like they're gone, like Hopper, and then all of a sudden, oh, he's alive and everything's fine.
If they were gonna have her be dead, then I don't think they would have had 11 bring her back to life just to sit in a coma for an extra 5 minutes and then be dead again. Like, that's just kind of an extra step.
See, I agree with that, but then also at the same time, you have her going into her brain and not being able to find her in her mind. And then you also have that the fourth death happened. They did unlock the upside down and open it up. So like you see that evidence, you're like, well, by logic, it probably means that she died. If this wasn't a TV show and it wasn't someone that was like a narrative we're following, by all rights and purposes, I would say, yeah, she's 100% dead. She died because of this. So my guess is that, since I agree with what you said, Brian, that they wouldn't do that, it wouldn't make sense to do it that way. My guess is it's some sort of like mind prison that Vecna, because the battle happened in the mind, so that somehow Vecna was able to steal her consciousness and she died in person in that time that they were fighting, and she's being held captive in some sort of extra layer that's not an upside down. It's like some mindscape, something like that.
That's what I think too. And then I think because of that, she's going to spend a good chunk of the season being in a coma and not being able to reach her. But then that could open up for her to somehow make a good entrance and a good, like, saving somebody at the last minute from the inside, because she's in there somewhere.
Here's a thought, and this is complete. I'm making this up on the spot, but as you were talking, Matt, I was just thinking. I started thinking about season 3 and all the people that went into when the Mind Flayer took them. Billy was gathering all these people. What if they have like a Marvel Universe moment and like hundreds of people come back to life? Because we never really got answers with what are all those, like Billy and all them. Are they dead? Are they just somewhere in the upside down?
I had thought of that too. So actually, I don't not only watched all of season 4 twice, but I've gone back. I rewatched season 1 and 2 when I'm like halfway through season 3 already, and it's interesting going back and watching those early seasons, having the season 4 knowledge. You definitely gets in a different light, because at one point I think it's Dr. Brenner who, when he's talking to 11, he says like, when one kills, he doesn't just kill. He like takes the essence of everybody, everything they are. So does that mean, just like we saw Chrissy and Patrick and Fred like on display in the timescape, their consciousness, like you said, Dan, just in there. But then if you go back and the whole like hive mind, like the Demogorgon and everything, the Mind Flayer, it's all Vecna. Does that mean that like everybody was killed by any of them, which would include Billy and Bob and Barb? Like pretty much everybody except for Alexei gets killed by Vecna, pretty much, which would be would kind of be a lame to say, oh, nobody's dead anymore.
But it would bring back Barb. I wouldn't bring back Bob. Well, no, Bob did die from Demodogs.
It's everybody except for Alexei who died by.
But the difference between being killed like Bob was versus like season 3 was kind of a weird thing where they didn't like die. They were like consumed by the whatever that blob was.
Yeah. Well, but that does, like what you're saying, does give a really good indication of how we would see Will used, because Will has been a part of that hive mind and he still has a part of that. And like even that, like the last shot where he feels it on the back of his neck and he turns around, that shows Will would be the key. Like Elle, for all these seasons, Elle has been the key, but it would be great to see Will get to be that key for a little bit, because they also haven't known what to do with him since season 2.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. Except give him a bowl cut.
Oh my God. Worst haircut.
Yeah. Well, and it also makes me think, like, is it going to be a thing where in order to completely kill him, you have to kill Will because part of him is in Will? Is that going to be a thing?
Ooh, that's a good question. Were you the one who sent to me that you said like back in season 1 in the pilot episode when Will gets like captured and sent to the upside down, that there's a clock chiming? Were you the one who said that?
Yeah, and then also just to say also, the episode in season 3 where after Billy was trying to escape and he sees that vision of like of him, the mind flayer as Billy with all the people behind him, you can very clearly hear all 4 of the Vecna clock chimes there as well.
Nice. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about Dr. Brenner / Papa, because I feel like you have the same thoughts I have. It just, all of a sudden he's alive. That was a really clumsy beginning to me.
Yeah. They didn't justify him being alive.
I agree. Dan, how'd you feel about Brenner?
I don't even think I remembered what happened to him. It was just kind of like, I just remember seeing him and like, wait, shouldn't you be gone? Like it was definitely one of those moments where I'm like, why am I looking at you? And I feel like that's kind of something you see in this show a lot. It's just people miraculously are not dead. And
we didn't see him die, but last time we saw him and all his cronies from season 1 were in a hallway with the Demogorgon, and the implication was, they all got killed. And even the next season when Dr. Owen shows up, he's like, everybody who was here before, they're gone. Which makes me think, like, was he building the whole Nina project during the whole seasons 2 and 3 off camera? And did Owens know about it the whole time? My guess would be yes.
I would say yes for the first question, no for the second. I didn't think Owens would be in on that. It was good to have Paul Reiser back and for him to be a little bit more of a moral guy, because in the second season it seemed like he was a little immoral, and then like all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, no, actually he does have a good heart, and then like turn it around. And so it's good to see him carry that on in this season too.
Yeah, it's kind of a low bar, because when you realize he was a good guy was when he's telling his team, hey, let's not murder a child.
That's a really high bar. A lot of people I know love killing kids. Chewing bubblegum and killing kids.
I did like seeing the backstory of 11 back at Hawkins' lab, and I think maybe they did a little bit too much of it, but I liked seeing that, and obviously that shows like the background and how all of that happened, and with one and everything.
Yeah, you kind of like, she has this weird connection to Papa that, like, for the person, it's like that thing in a show where you're watching it and you're like, why are you with this person? It's kind of like that whole thing where it's like everybody else sees the issues with Papa, but because 11 seems so weird saying Papa, but because everyone's just thinking that, but 11 like has grew up around him and has this experience, and so in this season we kind of got to see a little bit more of that. But I still think he's still a terrible person. But
oh yeah, for sure. That's all she ever knew, and they keep reminding that. Like, I just watched a season 3 one where Will's trying to describe how he feels when he feels the back of his neck, and he says, "You know that feeling when you drop on a roller coaster?" And everyone says yes, and 11's like, "No," because she just doesn't have life experience, and like that was the whole thing is like that Brenner stole her life from her, and that's why I like at the end he tried to do the whole I did everything for you, and she didn't give him the it's okay anyways.
Yeah, it's great that they didn't redeem him, even if like his final act was a more heroic one than anything else we've seen from him. I guess it wasn't heroic, but it was just basic decency of, here, let me help you get free.
But an hour after he locked her in a room, by the way.
Agreed. And so it was not a redemption for him. And I'm glad that they didn't, because they easily could have, because they did that with Billy. And even though you can at least empathize with Billy, where you're like, okay, you're a victim of abuse too, you can also at the same time say, but you were also responsible for abusing Max. And so in this season, they leaned into that of like saying, no, just so we're all aware, we 100% are saying he was a bad dude, but we just wanted you to understand where he's coming from, that he also was a victim of himself.
Yeah. Can we also not forget that Billy was just pretty much blatantly racist and said, like, you can't hang out with Lucas because he's that kind of person?
They were apparently, so they wanted the actor to drop the N-word at one point on Lucas. And he was very adamant because he believed that Billy was not racist, but that he didn't want anyone with Max. And that he had like racial tendencies, but that he wasn't like that type. He was just overbearing, controlling bully. And so because he was so passionate about the character that way, he didn't want it to just devolve into, oh, he's just racist. He's a more multi-layered character than simply he was racist.
Well, if that's the case, then why did he not care that about Mike or Dustin or Will hanging out with Max?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what I know about
Okay.
the actor. That's how what the actor went with. So it's like that might be a juxtaposition between the actor's interpretation and the writer's interpretation.
So, can we shift a little bit? I have two really small comedy moments that I loved in this scene. They're just so little. So one is with Robin.
No, we
Sorry.
can't shift from racism into comedy. What are you doing?
You know the scene they find Eddie in the pool or the pool storage or the lake storage area, and he's like has the knife up to Steve, and Dustin's trying to talk him down. He's like, hey, it's okay, and he says, you know Robin from band, and then in this tense moment, Robin like mimes the trumpet. She goes like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And then the other one is with Argyle, who like I love Argyle. I'm not sure if you guys thought he was too much. He was
No, he was good.
he was like the only thing I liked about the whole California guy storyline. Towards the end when Eleven gets the idea to help Max through her deprivation tank, she says a bathtub would help, and it's like, the other guys, they know that bathtub doesn't just mean bathtub. They know that means like the tank. It's like, well, yeah, we already did this. Argyle doesn't know that, and still doesn't question it and doesn't think it's weird. He's like, yeah, you got to be clean if you're going to be fighting monsters or whatever he says. It's just, I love that. You can say the most absurd things to him and he just goes with it.
Yeah, my dudes. She could be hiding behind a tree.
Yeah, he was a good addition. Especially that group was kind of more serious, I felt like. So it was nice to have him join where as they kind of split up the groups, it was nice to have some comedy.
It was serious until they get to Susie's house and suddenly it's cheaper by the dozen for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Who was the biggest bad guy to you? Like, who was the one that you hated the most? Was it Vecna, Dr. Brenner, Sullivan, like that general guy? Jason, the jock,
Jason,
Angela towards the beginning, who like bullied 11.
Let's say Jason and Angela. At least Jason got to get cut in half.
Or
was
Yuri.
The last one?
Yuri.
No, Yuri was funny. I'd say Jason still.
It's funny. It's like Jason and Ashley. Like I get so mad at them. And Vecna's, I'm like, nah. I mean, like you're a bad guy. That's just what you do. You get a pass. Like don't do it. But I can understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Jason and Ashley, you guys suck.
Like Yuri Murray, we rhyme.
I love Murray. Yeah. Murray's so funny.
Yeah, Vecna's the worst.
On scale.
Is that a real question?
No, it's funny. It's like there are those characters that like they're not the main villain, but they shouldn't be against the protagonists. And it's like almost that those are almost worse sometimes. Like I said, Ashley, like you're like, why are you being so terrible? You have no reason to be as terrible as you're being to 11. Or Jason, why are you being so dense? Like the fact that he's like, Chrissy would have come to me if she was dealing with all that stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure, Mr. But like he has no frame of reference outside of himself, and we saw that from his very beginning where he's like, oh, on that terrible day that we had a curse, but we went out and broke that curse by beating so and because of basketball we could survive as a community. Like, dude, no one cares if someone dies. No one's gonna be like, yeah, basketball saved us.
True.
Yeah. I like how his speech, I remember at the beginning he was like giving his speech at the pep rally. Mm-hmm. And was talking about all this terrible stuff, and he's like, and because of that, we're gonna win this basketball game or whatever he said. I'm just like, it's like when someone takes something that has nothing to do with what you're going on and ties it into their small situation.
Mm-hmm. But yes, Vecna is the worst in terms of scale. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean the roller rink scene was rough, but I think they do kind of a good job of like having different layers of characters and obviously enemies. So I mean, it's cool to have like the overall evil like Vecna, and then have kind of like a more natural enemy like the roller rink and Jason.
Yeah,
is that his name?
So,
it is.
Yeah. So I got some questions about Vecna though. Did he ever call himself Vecna because he was Henry and then one and then he turned it? But then like Vecna, they got that name from D&D and like he never played D&D. Does he know that they're calling him Vecna? And then
he knows they are? I just don't think he cares. I think he's like, call me whatever you want. I'm going to kill you.
How does Mike and them, they called him Vecna at one point. How do they know what he's called?
Because Nancy, he passed everything through Nancy, and Nancy delivered everything to them.
But Nancy and Eleven didn't meet until after all that happened. Oh, I suppose when Eleven was spying on their meeting, and then she heard Robin call him Henry/Vecna/1. That could be one.
Yeah, because I don't remember all that happened, and I just remember that they didn't know anything until that moment happened, and so I just filled in the blanks. That's how they led us through whatever Vecna did with Nancy.
So then the next thing is, I'm a little hazy on did Vecna create the Mind Flayer, or is he working for the Mind Flayer? Did he find the Mind Flayer, or what are your thoughts?
That was something that was, I felt like it was kind of confusing. I thought he created the Mind Flayer, but in like watching like the after show, it made it seem like the Mind Flayer was already there when one showed up. So
if they have after shows,
I know, I'm pretty sure season 5 is going to really dive into that. But
yeah, because Will makes a comment like knowing who it was all along, which makes me think that the Mind Flayer was always Vecna.
Well, he inserted himself into the hive mind, and like took control. He kind of like a drone queen for like because bees are a hive mind, and so without the queen, they have to have a new queen that takes over, or else they just go into chaos. And so he became that queen. So like that life form was alive. The hive mind was alive, but he just gave it form and direction. And I think that's what we saw when he was moving his hands and it was taking its form for the very first time, that it was taking orders from him.
So it looks like a spider because he likes spiders.
Yeah, I think so.
Also, can we talk real quick about how
take that?
Yeah.
Clearly everything I know is canon, and I've got all the answers.
Also, can we talk about how Will spent all of season 3 begging Mike and Lucas to play Dungeons and Dragons, and then as soon as he leaves town, they find Eddie Munson and join the best D&D group in school?
I don't like this anymore.
Will's kind of just the sad character. I mean, season 4, he was pretty much sad the whole time. So
yeah,
they got a few.
Cried a lot. I loved that when they all met up again, like everyone at the very end, and like Joyce and Jonathan and Will are all like hugging together, and then Nancy and Mike are standing just off to the side, like, okay, like, oh, is this what families are supposed to do? Where they're just like not touching, they're just like, all right, we're here, but it's like,
yeah,
our family's not like this at all.
Well, Mike hugged his mom, but like, do Nancy and Mike acknowledge their siblings at all?
No. They don't exist.
Also, you notice that when Nancy had talked about her vision from Vecna, it's like, I saw Holly and my mom and Mike. No mention about her dad being dead.
Yeah, forget that.
You know, I rewatched beginning of season 3 where 11 and Max have like that spin the bottle thing with all the different characters and they choose who she's going to spy on, and it lands on Mr. Wheeler. And they said, no, he's too boring. Why would you put him on your board to begin with?
Because it's Mr. Wheeler. He listens to Weird Al Yankovic.
He would.
He did. That when he was in his garage, he was listening to My Bologna.
Oh yeah.
Yep. There you go. Oh. That. Well, now I just used up my trivia. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Man, of all the seasons, how does this one compare to the other ones? I think you got my favorite. I'll just give my answer first, but my favorite is still 3. I really enjoyed 3. This one was definitely a lot different. It was kind of dark and longer. It kind of had a lot more explanation. I appreciate it that way, that it really dug deep. But I still say 3 is probably my favorite.
I would agree with that. I would say my order is 3, 1, 4, 2, And I think that 4 is only lower because it kind of sets it up. I'm expecting to really like season 5.
Yeah, I felt like 4, because it was a little more visceral, like just the like breaking every appendage before he kills them. Like that's like ugh to me. And so, it's not the worst thing I've seen in terms of gore, but it's just like this it was a little much for me.
Yeah.
But up until this season, I had felt like each season had gotten just a little worse. It just felt like because they're adding so many more characters, it ends up being just a little bit more where like they don't always have the right things to give every character. Like season 3, there's a lot of them got sidelined, and we talked. Like, sure, they brought him into it towards the end, but there was a lot of stuff that, like, the California storyline was so weak until they met 11. It was almost unnecessary until, like, once 11 was taken away from them, she was, like, the crux of anything that's going on there. And then them on their little road trip, it was a comic relief more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, and even at the end, Mike got a little bit to do, but I think the one who really got short end of the stick is Jonathan. He had nothing this whole season.
Yeah.
And
so 4 still ended up being better than 3, in my opinion, but I think it would go 1, 2, 4, 3.
Yeah. See, 4 also gave, I mean, I feel like every season they always had something good for Dustin, but this season they gave Lucas some good stuff. And I think they're setting it up. I don't really not sure about Mike, but obviously Will's going to get a lot of good stuff this next season.
Yeah, he deserves it. Yeah, Lucas and Max had a really good storyline this season. It was good. Robin and Steve and Nancy were strong.
I like them a lot too.
What was your favorite storyline of all the ones that we had?
The Hawkins one, the main group, the like Dustin, Lucas, Max, and the older teens.
What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Hawkins one, the Russian one was interesting with the pilot that conned them and all that. I mean, the main group. I mean, the group that was in Hawkins had kind of all the fun ones. It seemed like Steve and Dustin, and I think Robin's kind of become one of those too. And so I mean, those characters kind of had their moment to shine, and probably had the biggest storyline in this season. So
Russian felt so removed from everything that is happening. Obviously, it's half the continent, half the globe away. But even like it only had the saving grace of them having a hive mind. And so when Murray like lights everything on fire at the same time as like they're throwing Molotov cocktails and the upside down and all that sort of stuff, like that's when it ties together. But apart from that, it's like this was inconsequential to the bigger storyline apart from getting Hopper back. That's what it felt like until that moment.
Yeah, like, at least in season 3, they were separate. Like there was the Dustin and Steve and them, and then there was the other guys, but they still came together, and it was like everyone working together at the final end. Whereas this one, they never really came together until after all the drama. They were kind of working together because you had the Pizza Dough crew, you had the Hawkins crew, the Upside Down crew, and the Russia crew, but they didn't know they were working all together.
Yeah.
I have heard that season 1's going to have more of season 5 is going to feel more like season 1, where it's going to be kind of more the core group back together. And obviously they're I don't know, like going to be 8 years older at that point or something. And so
to be fair to season 1, they had the same thing, although they were all in Hawkins, but they did have them all doing their own separate thing. They were all in their own separate like movies of the 80s, but it all worked really well together and it flowed so seamlessly because they didn't have any fat to begin with. Now, when you have extra characters that you're like, well, what do we do with them? It's hard to always know where you put them in certain things and what you can give to them.
Matt, do you still hate Erica? Because she's growing on me.
She was a lot better this season. I will give her that. There was still some annoying parts to her, but she was miles better than she was in season 3. Season 3
I don't know why
every scene I hated her.
Why you're hating on season 3, Erica? I thought that was prime Erica.
Because I hate sass and divas. I can't do it, man.
She's the 7-year-old kid, or however old she's supposed to be. She's supposed to be obnoxious.
Yeah, but it's still mission accomplished.
I enjoyed it. I don't know why you're a hater, but
So I want to touch on something you talked about earlier, Matt. So Nancy and Steve and Robin, they tried to kill Vecna, and they look out the window. He's not there, and then Will later confirms that he's not dead, which means they had a problem. They threw a Molotov cocktail at it, and then now they have a new problem.
Thanks, Jason.
The better Jason.
The better Jason. There was a line earlier in the season that Jason says to Lucas where he's like, yeah, first hangover, huh? You're going to feel like you feel fine tonight, but in the morning you'll feel like you're torn in half.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh, was he a spoiler? A little spoiler there? Because he got torn in half, Dan. But that was like the quickest little blink and you miss it death I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm. It also made it worse because he was waking up and he was conscious and aware, but he couldn't move at the same move out of the way.
Yeah, that would suck. No, there goes my belly. All right, we good.
You guys, I've noticed you guys have really picked on Jason a lot.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about this? Maybe after we finish this call, you can talk through your issues. And I honestly, I did not think that much about Jason, and here we are, just going on and off, all about it. You're saying he's worse than Vecna,
You know what? I was bullied a lot when I was younger. When I was in college, there's this guy who lived on my floor. He would drive me to church every week, but he made fun of me all the time. He was terrible. Smelled weird, looked funny, thought he was the best guitar player in the world. Was only okay.
I was not very good, but I was no Eddie Munson.
That's for sure. You weren't Eddie Munson, but you were good. I still going back to our worship team, one of my favorite worship teams I've been on. I love my worship teams now, but that it was so put together. I loved our sound that we had. It was a lot of fun. I have a lot of good memories about it.
I did a lot of jumping off of chairs. I remember.
I like the one, I don't know if you did it more than once, but I know you did once. You had a whistle for worship team, and you were blowing on a whistle as you were playing.
As you do in worship music.
As one does, yeah.
I got to give Dan props. He's one to just go with stuff. It's back in the day, I used to have this group with youth group kids where they'd come over and we'd make dumb videos. And I remember I told Dan once, hey, take your shirt off and get in the shower for the scene. He did it.
I had flashbacks today of your movie, Matt, that you starred me in as a drunkard
who flirts with a teenager. Although in the movie she is his age.
Believe it or not, this is the first of 2 times this month we're gonna have a star of that movie on the podcast because Brandon's coming on in a couple weeks.
Yep.
What show are you guys talking about with him?
We're not talking about a show. We're talking about just different the character type of the lovable oaf, the dumb sweet guy like Eric from Boy Meets World.
Yep. Spoiler. That's one.
Oh.
But man,
make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode.
One of my favorite moments about Kairos was so in the show, Dan's married to this girl, and he used to date this other person who's in the show, and he is still obsessed with her and thinking of cheating and still wanting to talk to her and all that sort of stuff, and he's only thinking about it in the show. Meanwhile, my character kills someone, and then when that one episode is done, people are like, Dad, I can't believe you would do that. He's like, his character killed a guy. They're all giving you such a hard time for thinking about cheating.
Was I Jason in that movie? Is that
you
why you
Jason? That's what it
was.
Is that
why the storyline went that way?
And I'm kept doing it. You're like, he killed someone. Why are you on me?
And I think that makes me Mike because all my character did was give speeches because I was the pastor.
It's true. Mike's the pastor of Stranger Things. You heard it here first.
I just remember laughing in scenes I wasn't supposed to laugh in.
I remember you showing up to every single scene I don't have any of my lines even close to memorized. Just have the piece of paper off camera and you'd be reading from the paper. Zero acting. You're just reading your lines off camera.
My bad.
So that's why Dan wasn't in Jeremy.
Oh man.
So
you weren't?
No, I don't think so.
I only got one shot. And I blew it apparently.
So if we can get back to Stranger Things, I have a quick rant I could go on.
Okay, go on your rant.
Okay. Will has his whole speech to Mike. Oh, you're the heart. You've always been the heart. No, because Dustin is the heart. Dustin is the one who convinced Mike to go back and apologize to Lucas in season 1. Dustin is the only one who could befriend one of the demo dogs with Dart and use that connection to get everyone to escape in season 2. Dustin was the one who pulled Steve into the group and helped make him a lovable character. Like, Dustin is the heart of the group. Mike is like, and Mike, especially, you go back to season 2, Mike was like overly mean to Max. Every chance he gets, he's like, just so you know, you're not really part of our party. Like, whereas Dustin was welcoming.
You mispronounce Will like a lot of times in that sentence. When he disappears, like, we have to get him back. He's what we care about. We're fighting for him. In the second season, he's possessed. I'm like, no, I won't let him die. He's mine. I love him. You know, all that sort of stuff. I feel like Will's more of the heart. And then even Will is like the one, like, I'm going to encourage you, Mike. They just sidelined their heart. They're like operating like Tin Man for the last 2 seasons. They don't really need him anymore.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know if that makes Dustin, but I think that makes Dustin and Will the better of the two, more so than Mike and Dustin, or Mike and Lucas.
He's the pancreas, clearly.
Mike is like different every season, it seems like.
Yeah.
So maybe first season he was kind of more of what he was supposed to be, and then second season he was kind of all over. And
yeah, I saw a meme that said, in season 1, Mike jumped off a cliff to save his friends. In season 4, Mike doesn't realize that his friend is sitting next to him crying.
Yep. I saw a meme that was like, if only his mom had let them play like that 10 more minutes at the beginning of season 1 for D&D, Will wouldn't have been captured and none of this would have ever happened.
Mm-hmm. So
that's a good point.
Speaking of that, this is going to be somewhat season 4 adjacent. So when adjacent,
nope.
Yep.
Nope, we don't let it. We're not allowing it.
Okay. I don't think Vecna himself couldn't physically take Will because the whole thing is that he's stuck in the Upside Down. So was he like just mind controlling with the Demogorgon? Because the Demogorgons aren't sophisticated enough. Because like you see in season 1, it's like undoing the chain lock on Will's door and like seeking out Will. But how is that happening when Vecna couldn't get out of the Upside Down?
Yeah, I feel like he's operating through the Demogorgon. I felt like that was what they're going for.
Okay. But why? I mean, I'm sure this will go to season 5, but I mean, why Will? He has no connection to Will. They haven't even met 11 yet. They're just random kids in Hawkins at this point.
Well, you know what they say. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Stop it. No.
So, Dan, which of us makes worse jokes? Or is it an even tie?
It's pretty even.
Yeah.
I feel like
I wrote that brilliant script at the beginning of the episode that everyone loved.
It was so good. I feel like Matt's jokes are worse. Brian's problem is he laughs at his own jokes before he can finish saying them.
That's fair.
Oh, man.
And then you get that awkward moment of, I didn't even hear the punchline. What's funny? I don't even know.
Just assume that it's funny.
No, it's fine.
You awkwardly laugh.
Gosh. Well, I don't know. That's the best note we can go off on. Well, thanks, Dan, for stopping by. We're gonna go ahead and jump into trivia. So last week's trivia, we talked about our best TV musicals, and including Even Stevens, where she sings about going to the moon in 1969. So we asked you what shows debuted in 1969, and we actually even mentioned them in that episode. And I said I only said like one show, and then Brian reminded me there's 2, but it is both Scooby-Doo and Sesame Street both debuted in 1969, still making content today. So there you go. There's your trivia from last week. Dan, you've got trivia about Stranger Things this week?
Yep. Let me do two. One has nothing to do with this, but I listened to your Father's Day episode, and you had no mention of the greatest TV dad ever. So who is the greatest TV dad ever? It is Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights, and you guys need to watch that show.
I've watched 3 episodes. I've started it because of your recommendation, sir.
I have heard of it.
It's a lot of Jason, so you might hate it. I don't know.
I'm not a fan of what's the one like
Riggins?
Defensive. Yeah, Riggins.
You're gonna love him, Riggins. I guarantee it. He'll be the most lovable character. He's Steve, except for Friday Night Lights.
Love it. I'm already excited.
Except maybe more of a Jason. Okay, real trivia is this. I won't give away the answer. This is season 1. Who is the first person to die in Stranger Things?
Oh, I already know this.
I think
I don't know the person's name, but I know this.
I don't know if the character is named, if it's the same thing I'm thinking of.
But that's a good. Dan's like, oh, fine, whatever. I don't even want to do.
Oh wait, I won't tell him.
That's good. That would ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dan. It's always fun to have you back. You made me laugh a lot. I really appreciate that. You made me cry a little bit, but I'm going to keep that on the inside. So,
I didn't even notice.
I hide my tears well. Years of practice.
Oh, this wasn't paying attention.
Well, thanks to all the people who listen. Thank you for stopping by every single week. Just talked to one of my friends who has just stumbled upon this podcast, so I'm sure he listens. So I'll just give him a shout out because Hunter's pretty awesome. I am in a show that is currently going on right now, and he is in it with me. And so
Hunter,
there he's at. All right. Well, until next time, I am Matt.
I'm Brian.
Dan.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching. Lieutenant Dan, ice cream.
That's what I miss about having you around, Dan. You were like, you couldn't make it funny with one word.
That's impressive.
We should cut this before we get to any other conversations because Zoom is about to cut us off, and then we'll start a new movie.
Just say it, Dan. Say I'm racist. Say
it. Wait, you guys are just doing the free Zoom plan?
Yeah.